The story begins in a bustling American city where wealth and poverty coexist in stark contrast. Ethan Caldwell, a successful investor, stands the center of a lavish party in his penthouse. Crystal glasses clink as the city's elite congratulate him on his latest financial triumph. Caldwell, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, exudes confidence and charm. He moves effortlessly through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries with politicians, celebrities, and fellow business moguls. In the background, a large flat-screen TV catches Caldwell's eye. A news report flashes across the screen, detailing the imminent closure of a local orphanage due to lack of funds. The stark juxtaposition between the opulent party and the struggling orphanage is evident, but the partygoers seem oblivious to the irony. Meanwhile, across town, the orphanage in question paints a very different picture. Children of various ages huddle in worn-out rooms, their belongings packed in small bags, uncertain of their future. Among them are Mia and Lucas, two resilient teenagers who have become pillars of support for the younger children. Mia, a bright 15-year-old with a talent for art, helps a group of younger kids create colorful drawings to brighten up the drab walls. Lucas, a quiet but determined 16-year-old, assists the staff in preparing meals and organizing activities. Despite their circumstances, they work together to create a sense of family and belonging within the orphanage walls. As the orphanage staff struggles to make ends meet, Sarah Jennings, an idealistic auditor, receives an assignment that will change everything. She's called into her supervisor's office and handed a file containing anonymous tips about financial irregularities in Ethan Caldwell's business dealings. The supervisor emphasizes the sensitive nature of the case, given Caldwell's influence in the city. Sarah, known for her meticulous work and unwavering integrity, accepts the challenge. She begins to dig into Caldwell's financial records, unaware of the complex web of deceit she's about to uncover. As she leaves her office that evening, Sarah passes by the orphanage, noticing the Save Our Home signs in the windows. Little does she know how intertwined her investigation will become with the fate of these children. Sarah Jennings dives into her investigation of Ethan Caldwell's finances with determination. She spends long hours in her office, poring over spreadsheets, bank statements, and tax records. As she digs deeper, a pattern begins to emerge. Sarah discovers a series of complex transactions that seem to funnel money away from charitable donations meant for the orphanage and into offshore accounts. Her findings are troubling. What initially appeared to be simple accounting discrepancies now points to a deliberate scheme of fund misappropriation. Sarah meticulously documents each suspicious transaction, building a solid case against Caldwell. She knows the gravity of her discoveries and the potential impact on both Caldwell's empire and the orphanage's future. Seeking to understand the real-world consequences of these financial maneuvers, Sarah arranges a meeting with the orphanage's director, Maria Thompson. The two women meet in Maria's cramped office, surrounded by children's artwork and stacks of unpaid bills. Maria, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and worry lines etched on her face, shares her frustrations. She speaks of promised donations that never materialized, of constant budget cuts, and of the heart-wrenching decisions she's forced to make daily. "We're barely keeping the lights on," Maria confides, her voice heavy with concern. "If things don't change soon, we'll have no choice but to close our doors." As Maria speaks, Sarah observes children playing in the courtyard through the window. She sees their laughter, their resilience, but also notices the worn-out playground equipment and the peeling paint on the walls. The reality of the situation hits her hard. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Caldwell receives word of the ongoing audit. He immediately calls an emergency meeting with his team of high-powered attorneys. In a sleek conference room overlooking the city skyline, Caldwell and his legal team strategize their defense. "We need to discredit any findings before they become public," Caldwell insists, his usually calm demeanor showing cracks of concern. His lawyers nod in agreement, proposing various tactics to undermine the audit and Sarah's credibility. As the meeting concludes, Caldwell stands alone at the window, gazing down at the city he's long considered his personal playground. For the first time in years, he feels a twinge of unease. The empire he's built on charm and financial maneuvering suddenly seems less secure. He makes a mental note to dig up information on Sarah Jennings, determined to find any weakness he can exploit. At the orphanage, Mia and Lucas become increasingly aware of the dire situation. Overhearing hushed conversations between staff members and noticing the dwindling supplies, they realize that their home is in jeopardy. Determined to take action, they gather a group of the older children to brainstorm ideas. "We can't just sit around and wait for someone to save us," Mia declares, her artistic mind already churning with possibilities. Lucas, ever practical, suggests reaching out to the local community for support. Together, they hatch a plan to organize a fundraising event. The children divide into teams, each tackling different aspects of the event. Mia leads a group in creating colorful posters and flyers, while Lucas coordinates with local businesses for donations and support. They spread the word through social media and by going door to door in the neighborhood. As news of their initiative spreads, the community begins to rally around the orphanage. Local shop owners offer to display posters, and volunteers step forward to help organize the event. The children's determination touches many hearts, inspiring others to get involved. On the day of the fundraiser, the orphanage grounds are transformed. Colorful banners hang from trees, local bands set up a small stage, and the aroma of donated food fills the air. The turnout exceeds everyone's expectations. Families, students, and even some local celebrities show up to support the cause. Throughout the day, attendees are moved by the stories shared by the orphanage residents. Mia showcases an art exhibition featuring works by the children, each piece telling a story of hope and resilience. Lucas, overcoming his shyness, gives a heartfelt speech about the importance of community and belonging. The event becomes more than just a fundraiser. It evolves into a celebration of unity and compassion. Neighbors who had never spoken before find themselves engaged in conversation, sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. The children of the orphanage, often felt invisible, now stand the spotlight, their voices finally being heard. As the day winds down, the success of the event becomes clear. Not only have they raised a significant amount of money, but they've also created lasting connections within the community. Local businesses pledge ongoing support, and volunteers sign up to help with tutoring and mentoring programs. The media picks up on the story, with local news stations covering the event. This coverage catches the attention of Sarah Jennings, who watches the report with growing interest. She sees the faces of the children she's fighting for and feels a renewed sense of purpose in her investigation. The community's response to the orphanage's plight provides her with valuable context for her audit, reinforcing the importance of her work in uncovering the truth about Caldwell's financial dealings. Inspired by the fundraising event, Sarah Jennings decides to attend the orphanage's follow-up community meeting. She arrives at the orphanage, blending in with a crowd of supporters. As she listens to the children and staff share their stories and plans for the future, Sarah feels a growing sense of responsibility. During the meeting, she observes Mia and Lucas leading discussions with confidence and maturity beyond their years. Their determination to save their home and create a better future for all the children strikes a chord with Sarah. She realizes that her investigation is about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the lives of these children and the community that supports them. Energized by what she's witnessed, Sarah returns to her investigation with renewed vigor. She spends long nights at the office, meticulously tracing Caldwell's financial transactions. As she digs deeper, she uncovers a disturbing pattern that extends beyond the orphanage. Sarah discovers that Caldwell's fraudulent activities span multiple companies he's managed over the years. She finds evidence of embezzlement, tax evasion, and manipulation of charitable donations. The scale of the deception is staggering, involving millions of dollars and affecting numerous charitable organizations. Armed with this information, Sarah decides it's time to confront Caldwell directly. She arranges a meeting at his office, preparing herself for a challenging encounter. As she enters Caldwell's luxurious office, she's struck by the contrast between his world and the one she witnessed at the orphanage. Caldwell greets her with his trademark charm, offering her a seat in front of his imposing desk. "Ms. Jennings, to what do I owe the pleasure?" he asks, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Sarah cuts straight to the chase, laying out the evidence of financial misconduct she's uncovered. She watches Caldwell's facade crack slightly as she details the extent of her findings. Caldwell, realizing the seriousness of the situation, attempts to manipulate Sarah emotionally. He speaks of his humble beginnings, his philanthropic efforts, and the jobs his companies have created. "Surely you understand the complexities of managing large-scale businesses," he says, leaning forward. "Sometimes, certain financial maneuvers are necessary for the greater good." But Sarah remains unmoved. She counters each of his arguments with hard facts, refusing to be swayed by his charisma or intimidated by his status. "Mr. Caldwell," she says firmly, "the evidence points to deliberate fraud, not complex business strategies. Your actions have directly harmed the very organizations you claim to support." As the meeting concludes, the tension in the room is palpable. Caldwell's charm has given way to barely concealed anger, while Sarah's resolve has only strengthened. She leaves his office knowing that the real battle is just beginning, but feeling more committed than ever to exposing the truth and seeking justice for the orphanage and all those affected by Caldwell's deceit. In the days following his confrontation with Sarah, Ethan Caldwell finds himself increasingly on edge. For the first time in years, he feels his carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. Alone in his penthouse, he pours himself a drink and reflects on the choices that led him to this point. Caldwell's mind wanders to his own childhood, one of privilege, yet emotional neglect. He remembers the pressure to succeed at all costs, the belief that money equaled worth. These memories, long suppressed, now surface with uncomfortable clarity. He realizes that in his relentless pursuit of wealth and power, he's become the very thing he once despised. Shaking off these unsettling thoughts, Caldwell decides to go on the offensive. He hires a private investigator to dig into Sarah's background, determined to find something he can use against her. The investigator returns with surprising information. Sarah spent part of her childhood in the very orphanage she's now fighting to save. Caldwell sees this as an opportunity. He leaks this information to friendly media contacts, spinning a narrative that Sarah's investigation is driven by personal vendetta rather than professional duty. He hopes to discredit her findings by painting her as emotionally compromised and biased. However, Caldwell's plan backfires spectacularly. Instead of undermining Sarah's credibility, the revelation of her connection to the orphanage garners public sympathy. People see her as someone fighting for a cause close to her heart, making her more relatable and trustworthy. The community that had rallied around the orphanage now extends its support to Sarah. Social media buzzes with messages of encouragement and calls for a thorough investigation into Caldwell's dealings. Local activists organize rallies in support of Sarah and the orphanage, drawing even more attention to the case. Sarah, initially blindsided by the exposure of her past, quickly regains her footing. She decides to address the public directly, holding a press conference outside the orphanage. Surrounded by supporters, including Mia and Lucas, Sarah speaks candidly about her experiences. "Yes, I spent time in this orphanage as a child," she admits, her voice steady. "And that experience taught me the value of integrity and the importance of standing up for those who can't defend themselves. My past doesn't compromise my investigation. It strengthens my resolve to uncover the truth." Her honest and emotional speech resonates with the public and the media. The narrative shifts, focusing on the David versus Goliath nature of the confrontation between Sarah and Caldwell. Journalists begin digging deeper into Caldwell's business practices, uncovering more inconsistencies and questionable dealings. As public opinion turns against him, Caldwell watches his influence wane. Business partners distance themselves, and invitations to elite social events dry up. He realizes that the power he's wielded for so long is slipping away, and the foundation of his empire is shakier than he ever imagined. The community's support for Sarah and the orphanage continues to grow. A local park becomes the site of a large gathering, where Sarah is invited to speak about the importance of accountability and social responsibility. The crowd is a diverse mix of families, students, local business owners, and activists. Sarah takes the stage, her determination evident in her posture and voice. She speaks without notes, her words sincere and powerful. "This isn't just about one man or one orphanage," she begins. "It's about the kind of society we want to live in. Do we allow the powerful to exploit the vulnerable, or do we stand up for what's right?" She outlines the broader implications of Caldwell's actions, explaining how financial fraud affects not just immediate victims but entire communities. Sarah's speech resonates deeply with the audience, inspiring a sense of collective purpose. As she concludes, the crowd erupts in applause and chants of support. Meanwhile, Caldwell, watching the event unfold on television, realizes the gravity of his situation. In a desperate move, he reaches out to his media contacts, offering exclusive interviews and attempting to sway public opinion back in his favor. He proposes a narrative of business complexities and misunderstandings, trying to paint himself as a misunderstood philanthropist. Some media outlets, tempted by the prospect of exclusive access to Caldwell, begin to publish more sympathetic pieces. They question the thoroughness of Sarah's investigation and suggest that the situation might be more nuanced than initially reported. Sarah, however, is undeterred. During her investigation, she uncovered a crucial document, an internal memo that clearly outlines Caldwell's strategy for diverting funds from charitable donations. This piece of evidence could be the key to exposing Caldwell's fraudulent activities once and for all. Recognizing the significance of this document, Sarah knows she needs to handle it carefully. She decides to reach out to trusted journalists and legal experts to ensure the information is released and interpreted correctly. She also plans to share the findings with a community that has supported her, knowing their continued involvement is crucial. Sarah meets with Mia and Lucas, explaining the importance of the document and the potential impact it could have. The teenagers, having grown significantly through their experiences, offer to help organize a community meeting where Sarah can present her findings. As they plan this crucial next step, Sarah reflects on the journey that has brought them to this point. She realizes that exposing Caldwell's fraud is just the beginning. The real challenge lies in creating lasting change, ensuring that institutions like the orphanage are protected and that those in power are held accountable. With the support of the community behind her and armed with compelling evidence, Sarah prepares for what she knows will be a defining moment in her career and in the lives of all those affected by Caldwell's actions. The stage is set for a confrontation that will have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. The community rallies around Sarah, Mia, and Lucas as they prepare for the crucial event where they'll reveal the evidence against Caldwell. The local community center becomes a hub of activity, with volunteers working tirelessly to organize the gathering. Mia takes charge of creating visual aids to help explain the complex financial information to the public. Her artistic skills prove invaluable as she designs clear, impactful infographics that break down Caldwell's fraudulent activities. Lucas, with his natural leadership abilities, coordinates the logistics of the event, ensuring everything from seating to security is properly arranged. As the day of the event approaches, Sarah works closely with her legal team to ensure that the presentation of evidence is bulletproof. They anticipate potential counterarguments and prepare responses to any legal challenges Caldwell might mount. Meanwhile, Caldwell, aware of the upcoming event, becomes increasingly desperate. He makes a last-ditch effort to intimidate Sarah and the children. Late one night, Mia and Lucas find threatening notes left at the orphanage, warning them to back down. Instead of cowering, they report the incident to the police and to Sarah, strengthening their resolve to see this through. Sarah, upon learning of the threats, is both angry and more determined than ever. She arranges for additional security measures for the orphanage and the event. The community responds to news of the threats with outrage, organizing a protective watch around the orphanage and escorting the children to and from school. The night before the event, Sarah, Mia, and Lucas gather with other key community members for a final review of their plans. The atmosphere is tense but hopeful. Mia shares a poignant moment with the group, reminding them of why they're fighting. "This isn't just about money," she says. "It's about giving kids like us a chance at a real future." Lucas, typically reserved, speaks up as well. "We've already won in a way," he observes. "Look at how we've all come together. That's something Caldwell can't take away from us." Sarah, moved by their words, feels a renewed sense of purpose. She knows that regardless of the outcome, the community has been transformed by this experience. They've discovered their collective strength and the power of standing up for what's right. As they finalize their preparations, news breaks that Caldwell has called an emergency press conference for the morning of their event. It's clear he's planning a preemptive strike to discredit their findings. The group quickly adapts their strategy, preparing responses to potential allegations Caldwell might make. They also reach out to their media contacts, ensuring that their side of the story will be heard alongside Caldwell's claims. As dawn breaks on the day of the event, there's a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. Sarah, Mia, and Lucas arrive early at the community center, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. They know that the next few hours will be crucial in their fight for justice and the future of the orphanage. The community center buzzes with energy as people file in for the event. The room is packed, with every seat filled and people standing along the walls. Local and national media set up their equipment, ready to broadcast the proceedings. As the event begins, Lucas takes the stage to introduce Sarah. His voice, initially shaky, grows stronger as he speaks about the importance of truth and community. The audience listens intently, moved by his sincerity. Sarah then steps up to the podium, her demeanor calm and determined. She begins by thanking the community for their support and then dives into her presentation. Using Mia's infographics displayed on large screens, Sarah methodically lays out the evidence of Caldwell's financial misconduct. She presents bank statements, internal memos, and eyewitness accounts that paint a damning picture of Caldwell's activities. The audience reacts with gasps and murmurs as the full extent of the fraud is revealed. Midway through Sarah's presentation, breaking news interrupts the proceedings. Caldwell's hastily arranged press conference is being broadcast live. The room falls silent as Caldwell appears on screen, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Caldwell attempts to spin the situation, claiming that he's the victim of a witch hunt orchestrated by disgruntled former employees. He accuses Sarah of manipulating evidence and having a personal vendetta against him. However, his usually smooth demeanor is cracking, and his arguments sound hollow in the face of Sarah's meticulous evidence. As Caldwell's broadcast ends, the room erupts in discussion. Sarah calmly addresses the audience, refuting Caldwell's claims point by point. She presents additional documentation that not only disproves his accusations but further implicates him in the fraud. The mood in the room shifts from shock to indignation. Community members stand up, sharing how Caldwell's actions have directly impacted their lives and the organizations they care about. Mia courageously steps forward to speak about life in the orphanage and the difference that proper funding could make. As the event concludes, it's clear that public opinion has solidified against Caldwell. Reporters clamor for interviews with Sarah, Mia, and Lucas. Social media explodes with support for their cause, with hashtags demanding justice trending nationwide. Outside the community center, a crowd has gathered. When Sarah, Mia, and Lucas emerge, they're met with cheers and applause. The atmosphere is one of solidarity and hope, a community united in the pursuit of justice. Meanwhile, across town, Caldwell watches the coverage of the event unfold on multiple screens in his office. The realization dawns on him that his carefully constructed world is crumbling. His phone rings incessantly, lawyers, business partners, and board members all demanding explanations. As the weight of his actions finally hits him, Caldwell slumps in his chair, the gravity of his situation becoming undeniably clear. In the aftermath of the community event, the story gains national attention. Sarah is invited to appear on a live primetime news show to discuss the case. She accepts, seeing it as an opportunity to bring wider attention to the issues of financial fraud and its impact on vulnerable communities. During the interview, Sarah maintains her composure, articulating the facts clearly and emphasizing the broader implications of Caldwell's actions. She speaks not just about the legal aspects, but also about the ethical responsibilities of those in positions of power. The interviewer, impressed by Sarah's thoroughness and passion, pushes for more details. This isn't just about one man's crimes, Sarah explains. It's about a system that often prioritizes profit over people. We need to reevaluate how we monitor charitable organizations and hold powerful individuals accountable. As Sarah speaks, social media explodes with supportive messages. Viewers share their own stories of encountering corruption and express admiration for Sarah's courage. The hashtag Justice for Orphans begins trending nationwide. Meanwhile, Caldwell makes a desperate attempt to salvage his reputation. He announces a large donation to the orphanage, presenting it as a gesture of goodwill and an attempt to set things right. However, his offer is met with skepticism and outright rejection. The orphanage's board of directors, emboldened by the community's support, issues a statement declining Caldwell's donation. "We cannot in good conscience accept money that was likely obtained through fraudulent means," the statement reads. "What we need is not a one-time donation, but systemic change and accountability." This rejection further damages Caldwell's image, with many seeing it as a powerful stand against attempting to buy forgiveness. The orphanage's principled stance earns them even more public support, with legitimate donations from other sources increasing significantly. As public pressure mounts, law enforcement agencies can no longer ignore the evidence. The police arrive at Caldwell's office with a warrant, based on the information Sarah has uncovered. News cameras capture the moment as Caldwell is escorted out of his building, his face a mask of disbelief. The sight of Caldwell being taken into custody sends shockwaves through the business community. Other corporations and wealthy individuals, fearing similar scrutiny, begin to reevaluate their financial practices and charitable giving. Back at the orphanage, Mia and Lucas watch the unfolding events with a mix of emotions. There's a sense of vindication, but also an understanding of the long road ahead. They gather the other children, many of whom are confused and anxious about the sudden attention. "Remember," Mia tells the group, her voice steady, "this isn't the end. It's a new beginning. We've shown what we can do when we stand together." Lucas nods in agreement. "We've got a chance to make real changes now," he adds. "Not just for us, but for kids and places like this everywhere." As the day draws to a close, Sarah visits the orphanage. She's greeted with hugs and thank yous, but she reminds everyone that this was a team effort. Looking around at the hopeful faces, Sarah realizes that their fight for justice has only just begun, but they've already achieved something remarkable. They've given hope to those who needed it most. The following days unfold with a flurry of activity. Caldwell's arrest marks the beginning of a complex legal process. As he's led into the courthouse for his initial hearing, a crowd of protesters and supporters of the orphanage gather outside, their presence a stark reminder of the community's involvement in bringing this case to light. Inside the courtroom, Caldwell's expensive legal team attempts to have the charges dismissed, citing procedural errors and questioning the validity of Sarah's evidence. However, the judge, impressed by the thoroughness of the investigation, allows the case to proceed. Caldwell is released on bail, but ordered to surrender his passport and remain in the city. Meanwhile, Sarah receives recognition for her role in exposing the fraud. She's honored by several watchdog organizations and invited to speak at conferences about corporate accountability. While appreciative, Sarah remains focused on the bigger picture. She uses these platforms to advocate for stronger oversight of charitable organizations and stricter penalties for financial crimes. At the orphanage, life begins to change for the better. The increased donations and attention result in much-needed renovations and expanded programs for the children. Mia and Lucas, recognized for their crucial roles in the case, are asked to speak at local schools about civic engagement and the power of standing up for what's right. During one such speaking engagement, Mia shares her experience. "We learned that our voices matter," she tells a room full of students. "No matter how young you are or where you come from, you can make a difference." Lucas, who once struggled with shyness, now stands confidently before audiences. "This experience taught us that community is our greatest strength," he explains. "When we unite for a common cause, we can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles." Their words inspire a new generation of young activists, sparking discussions about social responsibility and civic duty in classrooms across the city. As the trial date approaches, Caldwell, isolated and facing the reality of his actions, begins to show signs of remorse. In a surprising move, he reaches out to Sarah through his lawyers, expressing a desire to make amends. After careful consideration and discussions with the orphanage's board, Sarah agrees to a meeting. The encounter is tense but productive. Caldwell, his arrogance replaced by genuine regret, offers to plead guilty in exchange for a comprehensive plan to repay the misappropriated funds and establish a trust for the long-term support of the orphanage and similar institutions. This development is met with mixed reactions. Some see it as a positive step towards restorative justice, while others argue for a harsher punishment. The debate sparks a wider conversation about the nature of justice and rehabilitation in white-collar crimes. In the end, the court accepts the plea deal, with a stipulation that Caldwell must also serve time in prison and participate in community service programs focused on financial literacy and ethics. As the case concludes, the orphanage hosts a celebration of their new beginning. The renovated building stands as a symbol of what can be achieved when a community unites against injustice. Children laugh and play in the new playground, their futures now more secure. Sarah, Mia, and Lucas stand together, watching the scene with a sense of accomplishment and hope. They know that their journey has not only changed their lives, but has set in motion a wave of change that will impact their community for years to come. The story ends not with a sense of finality, but with a promise of continued growth and vigilance. It serves as a reminder that justice and compassion, when combined with determination and community support, can transform even the most challenging circumstances into opportunities for positive change.